congratulations to all of our awardees. We look forward to hearing from you. So, what we'll do is I'll introduce each of you, have you guys give some background about yourselves, and then let you guys take over and talk about the award and you've done. So, first one we'll have starting off will be Dr. Scott Kurtz.
Let's see. Try to get my mic back on. There. Can everyone hear me okay? Um, okay. So my name is Scott Curtis. I work at the Citadel. I'm a professor of physics. Let me get my screen up. And in addition, let's see, hopefully it comes up. Yeah, in addition to that, I came to the Citadel about 5 years ago from East Carolina University. My interests in terms of research are climate extremes and especially coastal environment. I've been looking at, especially lately, a lot on heat and flooding. But I direct the Near Center for Climate Studies, and um, that's been a great opportunity to interact with groups like this and to extend the reach of the Citadel. So um, I just to kind of go through my project. The title is A Surface Elevation Table Station for Education and Research Purposes at the Citadel. The My co-PIs are Will, who you met, and Katie, and also Dr. Tess Deffinger, who is a civil engineer here at the Citadel. Um, so the justification for our project is, again, a lot of this comes from, I'm new to this whole thing, by the way. A lot of this comes from really fruitful discussions with Will. But really, we have a gap in SET stations in the Charleston Harbor area. Um, and there's a lot of synergy with the new Charleston water plan and kind of the growth of the West Ashley Peninsula area. Um, Also, being on a college campus, you can see, I don't know, you probably can't see my pointer, but um, well, maybe you can. Um, our proposed location, which will be installed on July 23rd, is just off the at the edge of the Ashley River, where the Citadel campus meets the Ashley River. For those of you, most of you are probably familiar with Charleston. If you're not familiar with Charleston, but the Citadel lies on the eastern side of the peninsula, as you can see in that inset map, and we are right there on the Ashley. So the idea then is to not only to collect this SET data, but also we have some co-located data in both in terms of meteorological data and
Taking
tide
hair
data.
off of my hair tie.
Oh, that might be appropriate to kind of look at together, especially in terms of any kind of storms or changes over time. And the other advantage is that we're using students and faculty. A lot of them that are involved are from civil engineering and biology. So this is going to be, as the title says, an educational opportunity as well as a research opportunity, and as well as adding to the network in South Carolina that Will has developed. And then finally, another interesting kind of component to this project is that if you look at where the tide gauge is, between the tide gauge and our weather station, these 2 points right here is what we call the Citadel Creek. Um, and that is being dredged pretty much continuously. We do have a dredge site, which you can see on this map. But this might offer some insights into beneficial use for dredge material in the marsh environment. And again, this circle right here is approximately where this is going to be installed again next week. So we're really excited about getting a couple of students out there and Will out there, do some education as we install it. And yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. My email's down there at the bottom if you have any questions. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Scott. That seems like a really great project, and it seems like it's going to have some really great outcomes. So next up is going to be Dr. Beth Darrow. Look forward to seeing what she has to say.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Beth Darrow. I work at Bald Head Island Conservancy, which is a conservation nonprofit in southeastern North Carolina, down at the mouth of the Cape Fear River. Let's see if I can do this. I know I practiced this, but I'm struggling a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so the North Carolina Sea Grant and SET Community of Practice has done a great job. I have a visualization tool that shows where all the SET sites are. I'm sorry, I don't have that picture right here, but basically there is also much like Charleston, there's a little lack of SET sites and data on SET surface elevation for the lower Cape Fear River area and watershed down in southeastern North Carolina. And Dr. Lori Sutter from UNC Wilmington is working on some SET sites towards the northern part of the Cape Fear River. She'll talk about those. And then I'm also a newbie to this area, but we are planning on installing 2 sites down near the mouth of the Cape Fear River on Bald Head Island or the Smith Island complex. So Bald Head Island is right here. It's where the southeastern point of North Carolina. And we are basically a prograding island complex. So it's a little different than other Cape systems, where basically we have a lot of dune ridges kind of aligned with each other, and then a number of back barrier marsh areas that support a lot of just wonderful bird species, and most of it is preserved by the state of North Carolina. But we don't have really a good idea of what's happening in terms of marsh migration due to sea level rise. We know that there is accelerating sea level rise in the Cape Fear River. And then from a human perspective, the Cape Fear River is also dredged for navigation purposes. But right now, a big issue that we're facing is that that channel is proposed to be deepened, widened to help support the Wilmington Harbor. And this project is under review right now, but it's probably likely to be approved. And the river channel comes very close to Bald Head Island and these marshes. So we do want to establish a baseline for sea level rise assessment. We want to provide data to examine marsh response to these riverine processes, both natural and due to this river channel realignment. And our 2 sites are shown here, BHI-1 and BHI-2. Just a little bit of info about each of these sites. The first site, BHI-1, is more relevant to the local town. It's right across from their marina, from a lot of their infrastructure. So even though it is a pretty nice marsh monoculture of spartina alterniflora, it could be subject to dredging of the marina and things like that the village do locally. Some of the pros of this site are that we also have paired data for water quality and for water level that we've been collecting in conjunction with the Village of Bald Head Island. So we'll have a nice data set to go along with our SET data. The other site that we've identified is more of a remote site that is not really impacted by human activity at all, except for riverine processes. And it's a really interesting site because there are these natural shell rakes here. And I'd be interested maybe in talking with anyone offline about any concerns about those shell rakes. We haven't installed our sets yet. I think there are pros and cons because these shell rake sites are used by American oyster catchers and other birds for nesting, and it's important for them that they stay above sea level. And it's also another potential site for beneficial use of dredge spoil material if that were to happen with this channel realignment project. So on the other hand, maybe the shell rakes are impacting the the marsh surface here, limiting flow to the marsh surface. So, you know, there are pros and cons, but it's a really beautiful site. Yeah, in our timeline, we are all set with our permits. Thanks to Jen Dorton for her help. Right now, we're working with a grad student who is one of Joel Koska students from Georgia Tech, and she, in conjunction with her project, which is more related to mussels and symbioses, she's helping us establish vegetation transects at these sites and other sites in the area. So we're collecting data on the vegetation, doing elevation. She's also interested in filler crab and rib mussel densities. And then I need to order materials still. And then our plan is to install the sets in September. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Beth. Sounds great. So next up, we'll have Will and Katie go. I know they started introducing themselves, but I know they want to give a little bit more background, and we're looking forward to hearing of their project because Will be great.
Good morning. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, great. Let's see. So I'm Katie Luciano. I work closely with Will on our SET array throughout South Carolina, and I am a coastal geologist with the South Carolina Geological Survey. We work within the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, and both of us are located in Charleston, South Carolina. And we work within a geological survey. Most of the other geologists we work with are located up in Columbia, but the two of us we get to work on coastal things, which is amazing. And we have a network, an array that was established originally by Will and our former state geologist Bill Clendenin back in the late 1990s. And the oldest sites were installed in 1998, 1999. And those are located in the Ace Basin, south of Charleston. And those were installed as using the original design of the instrument, which some of y'all may be familiar with. I think everybody who's gotten an award through Sakura is probably going to be doing our set installations, so the rod set, which is a deeper installation. But all these original 10 stations were installed using the original design. And since 1998, the array has expanded, as you can see through this map. We currently measure 26 stations. 2 of those are within the North Inlet Winyah Bay near. So Eric Smith is responsible for 2 of those. But we measure quarterly, and so it's a pretty good geographic range. Let's see. Can we change your view to okay, yeah. Hold on a second. Sorry, y'all. Can you guys see it in presentation mode now?
Nope.
No?
Yeah, we're still seeing. You may want to stop sharing your screen and then reshare and share just the window
Okay.
of share just the slides.
I'm gonna put it in presentation mode first.
Yeah, sometimes.
And then share it. How about that? Sorry, y'all. We did practice this. All right. How does that look?
Yeah, looks
That's
great.
better.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So now y'all can see this map on the left-hand side of the slide. So this is our set array. So Will and I go out quarterly and measure. We measure 25 stations. And as you can see, it's a pretty good geographic extent. Our northernmost stations are located almost up at the North Carolina line. And then we have 2 stations also very, very close to the Savannah River and the Georgia line. Our highest density is within the Ace Basin. So all of the original stations were converted from original SETs to the rod set design in 2011, and currently that's what we're installing, with the exception of one station that we have at Fort Johnson, which is where we work. So I'm just going to flip through a couple of slides, and you can see this is our Fort Johnson station. This is Will measuring the RSET, and at this station it's kind of unique because we actually put the RSET and an original set into the same sort of PVC pipe area. So we are measuring using both of the instruments, since we have an old instrument, which if any of y'all are interested in South Carolina and ever seeing this instrument, we have one. It's definitely heavier than the RSET, I will say. But we've been able to use our data set to look at a few very specific things. So when the array was established, the driving questions for the array were, are marshes keeping up with sea level rise? So using quarterly pin level data over time, can we compare that to a sea level rise rate and see how the marshes are doing comparatively? This is a graphic that we put together a couple of years ago, where we have all of our stations down here on the x-axis, and then the rate of elevation change in millimeters per year on the y. And then in these gray bars, we have 2 different calculations for sea level rise based on the gauge in Charleston Harbor. And so you can kind of see where our stations fall in comparison to the sea level rise rate in Charleston. And then this is another view of that, kind of in a map form, keeping up with sea level rise, sort of within that same window of sea level rise, and then not keeping up with sea level rise, or the down triangles. But I mean, anyone who's measured these stations we found that it's incredibly, of course, very, very site specific. So each site kind of has its own specific signal, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later this afternoon when we talk about data and metadata. So you can see from our array that over time, there are some big gaps that have developed. We have a big concentration in the East Basin. We have several in Cape Romaine, and then we have some sort of in the Grand Strand area of South Carolina. But we work in Charleston. Ironically, there are not many, as Scott was saying, there are not many in Charleston. We have one at Fort Johnson on James Island, where we work. But when we considered the Socorro RFP, and we were trying to think of, where can we really fill in some gaps that would make a difference and wouldn't add too much to our measurement schedule, we decided that adding 6 additional stations in the Charleston Harbor area would be a good idea, a good use of materials and of time and focus. As Scott was saying, there's constant, very regular dredging in the harbor here in Charleston, engineering projects, the Charleston Water Plan, the Charleston Peninsula Plan. There's growth. There's just a lot going on. So better understanding this system, we decided was a really important thing. So Scott is going to be in Citadel. They're going to be installing their station near their campus. We have one that we're planning on the other side of the Ashley River, and then another further up the Ashley River, one up the Cooper, one up the Wando, one behind Sullivan's Island, which is one of the barrier islands here in the harbor area, and then another one on the Stono River. So we received materials in the spring of this year, and we're planning for an installation probably this fall and winter. And so when we measure our sites, we're measuring the pin level data. We also take a high accuracy GNSS system, like a Trimble survey grade GPS, out with us about every 5 years to measure for subsidence or uplift just along the coast. So those are 2 things that we do regularly. since these stations are going to be physically close to our office, we would like to add some additional techniques, including vegetation density and type. And Beth, I may contact you to ask about your techniques and what you're going to be doing there. Water level, also, we've used NOAA's VDatum tool to estimate mean water levels above the marsh, covering the platform at just an average high tide, but we've never actually had instrumentation out there. So installing maybe some shallow wells and having water level loggers in there would be really useful for us to know how much water regularly inundates our stations. Also, we have a vibrocoring rig, so getting some cores relatively close to the sites would provide some additional information. And then we do some geochronology age dating pretty regularly. So adding that in would also be an interesting component for figuring out maybe how old some of these marshes are. So I think that's all that I have until later. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Katie. It was great hearing from you and Will, and we look forward to hearing more from you guys later. So next up will be Dr. Lori Sutter.
I'm not sure Lori is here.
How I could do? Oh, didn't realize. Okay, then next up behind will no, it's sorry. Dr. Chris Kehrer will be up next.
Hey, Chris Kehrer.
Yeah, we can hear you, Chris. Great.
It is not allowing me to share.
Just make you the presenter. Let's see. See, it's still not, if you go down to share your screen, it's not allowing you to?
It is not.
Oh, that's weird. You are a presenter.
Oh, there we go. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, now we can see your screen.
Wonderful. First, I am not a doctor.
And we don't see your slides though. We just see the GoToMeet screen.
Yeah, it wasn't. Let's try this again. Yeah, it's still not allowing me to. Let's try this. Does that work?
Yep.
Still working?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, I am standing in for Dr. Courtney Kimmel. My name is Chris Kehrer. I'm with the Port Royal Sound Foundation. Thank you to SECOR for awarding us this grant. Our attempt is to install SET stations in the Port Royal Sound watershed in collaboration with the University of South Carolina and Beaufort Department of Natural Sciences. So this is very much a collaborative effort. Simply our mission for the Port Royal Sound Foundation is to protect and conserve the Port Royal Sound for the environmental, cultural, and economic well-being of the area. And we achieve this through education, research, and advocacy. Our approach is always to work collaboratively in networks, providing resources and support to researchers. So several of our partners, Brays Island, the Marine Corps Recruit Depot at Paris Island, Beaufort County, USCB, and a special shout out to Will Doar and Katie Luciani at the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, USGS. They have been instrumental in kind of guiding us through the proper steps, helping us with technical support and even getting boots on the ground, showing us how to install these devices. So our goal is to create an inland transect in the Port Royal Sound watershed, which is highlighted in red at the bottom of the screen. Currently, there are no set stations
I don't
within
think
that.
your slides are advancing.
I was
At
just
least
going
we
to hop
can't
on
see.
and say that.
Yeah.
Is it better if I do that?
Yes.
That works.
Okay. Yep. So just going back, just so you can see some of our partners involved. Um, but as you can see on the bottom here, there are currently no set stations in our focus area. So we are attempting to create somewhat of an inland transect going from coastal barrier islands into sea islands and then into the upper reaches of the watershed. Um, this is a pretty unique area when it comes to coastal estuarine systems. We get massive tidal surges, 8.5 feet on average, and king tides that can exceed 10.5 feet. It is somewhat of a homogeneous estuary. We get really high saline levels, even 30 miles inland. And it's one of the deepest natural harbors in the southeast. So it provides a unique landscape. It's one of the largest expanses, inland expanses of tidal salt marshes in the southeast United States, with well over 100,000 acres found in that area. Um, so um, these are all of our target areas. So we're attempting to deploy 12 set stations. So in the bottom right, you can see we have 4 stations, 2 around Pritchard's Island, which is a state-owned island run by USCB. And then we can advance for going inland. We have 2 stations that are going to be located on Paris Island. We have 2 stations, one that's on our property and one that's on a property called Widgeon Point. So our property, the Mobley Tract, we co-own with the Beaufort County, and Widgeon Point is also a Beaufort County site. And then further in the upper watershed, we have a site that's on private land and then one on Brays Island. Our hope is to work collaboratively with USCB to install these stations, as well as provide platforms for complementary projects that may include uh, flora and fauna transects and more. Uh, just this was our first site that we attempted to build. We got our platform up, and then a rather large thunderstorm rolled over. So we were never able to sink in the stainless steel rods. We figured putting in stainless steel rods during a thunderstorm was not a good idea. So we delayed that. But as well as we found out pretty quickly that summer heat is pretty intense when you're swinging a sledgehammer. So we're going to delay some of these builds until September and then try and knock out all 12 stations from September to November. Just a fun little video if it plays. Look how in unison we are, just showing you our great effort. That's Ty Petty and Tyler
This is
Hassett with
great.
USCB. So we thought that was just fun. Ty, Dr. Petty is on right now. I don't know if he wants to say anything about the project, but that's really all I have, and I'm happy to have any questions if there are any. Other than that, I'm done.
you, Chris. That was great. So at this time, I'd like to just thank all of our awardees for their amazing presentations and enjoy hearing about their projects. We're doing good on time, so if anyone has any questions for our awardees, or they can ask them or type them in the chat, we'd love to see if we can get those answered.
If I may, I'd like to chime in that what impressed the group who was reviewing all the applications was the mentorship. That there's this moving forward of those that are experts in the field, and they're helping those that, you know, as you're saying, you're new to it, and also that you are in the nonprofit field. Will, you had brought this up a few times. If you want to share your thoughts on that, I think that's what makes the Sakura SET initiative so marvelous. It's opening up and filling in gaps where SETs are so critical. Will, did you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, it just occurred to me when Port Royal Sound Foundation expressed interest in this. We've talked to them over the past, bunches of years and given presentations on our network and the work we're doing, and they became curious on how they could support gathering more data. And now I see Beth with Bullhead Island Conservancy also on this. People can correct me if I'm wrong, but almost all of the SET networks stations ever installed that I'm aware of are either government supported or university supported. They're for very specific research goals. And the fact that we have two NGOs that have now thrown their hat in the ring with this, I think is absolutely wonderful. They sometimes have better engagement with the public than the government entities can often do or the universities can do. So if anybody knows of more, I'd love to hear about it. But I want more NGOs to get in on this because, it's that more data always helps all of us. So thank you, both groups, for throwing your hat in on this.
Thanks, Will. Riley, did you want to, since we do have time, show the data visualization platform? And that would give the stakeholder initiatives session a bit more time to.
Yeah, I think we should have enough time to go through it.
Okay.
So, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's been working and contributing data to this data visualization platform. And I'm glad we're finally able to show it off and see what we've been working on.
Okay. Riley, are you ready to share it on your screen?
Let make sure it's loaded real quick.
Okay.
Mike, use liking it at the moment. Okay, there you go. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So we've created this visualization platform where we've loaded as many set stations as we can get our hands on. And so each of these points is a different station. So, and have them broken up. So anything that's a triangle pointing up is going to be a positive trend, and then anything pointing down is going to be a negative trend. And then square would be basically there's no trend either way. And then we also have circles where we just haven't had the data yet, and we don't know whether the trend's there or not. And so we also have it broken up. If it's colored in, it's an active station, and if it's not colored in, it's just gray, those are currently inactive stations at the moment. And then on unavailable, there's light gray is inactive, dark gray is active stations. So you can click on each of these points and zoom in if you want to zoom in on, say, a specific area. And then a lot of points are pretty much straight on top of each other. So you can zoom in further, and they've been offset just slightly to make sure you can see each point. When you look at the point, you'll see the sampling station. So when it was first sampled, last sampled, trend, you can get a link to where you can find that data. And then you can also see the actual ID. And I believe you can also see on most of them who to contact. If not, it's under the link as well. And so with that, not only do we have all of the stations in here, we also have availability to add different layers onto it as well. So under our layers, we've got a bunch of different things that we can run through real quick. We've got things under sea level, like sea surface high anomalies, and you can choose a specific date to look at that and just use a scroll wheel at the bottom to change it. Makes it really nice and easy. We have currents. Go real quick. It's taking a second to load, so we'll move on. If we zoom in further, we also have wetland data. Hopefully we can show a few of these off and they don't take forever to load. There we go. So we can look down and see where our stations are, what kind of wetland they're sitting in. More global current data. Again, most of this data has got the ability to choose a time, so you can look specifically at when you want. We got two different sources, the ICOM Navy data and the WFCOM data. We have water level data. So you can visualize that if you want to. We have quite a few different sources of salinity. We've got global salinity, and we've also got 3Ds, the forecasts, which also allow you to get a second wheel to view at different depths. So you want to look at a specific depth if you were curious. It's on there as well. And then we have temperatures. So global water level, and then once again, the 3D temperatures. And as all of these pop up, they'll be added to the legend over there on the right side, which is accessed through the little legend menu in the top right corner. Then We also have collected some vegetation data. So we have UVVR data. So pretty expansive data set, goes all the way up the coast. So pretty good for looking at the points. We also have the Florida salt marsh and Florida mangrove data for all of our Florida SETs. So like, you can see all the salt marsh up in here. Then last but not least, we also have included the National Land Cover Database. Bunch of different tools to be able to visualize your SETs in whatever you're curious about. But that's all we have in the platform. We have the ability to add virtual stations, so you could add a station and visualize how it look on here. We have the ability to add custom layers. If you want to add your own layer, click on here, create a layer, and then you could draw the layer, edit it however you want, name it, the whole deal. And then with these time-lapse ones, we also have the ability to do a compare if you want to compare something. So say, let's compare, we'll just do salinity, make it easy. And we want to compare 2 different times. Go in here, select here, and then you can compare it using this wheel, and then just select. And then there's a slider, should be on here. Had this working yesterday. Oh, there we go, that's why. So you can easily just do a quick slide comparison, turn slider. That way you can make a quick comparison between 2 dates or 2 depths if you want, be curious about that. And lastly, on the left side, we have our different base maps. So obviously we could show maritime under the RNC or ENC, then like an imagery based map if you wanted to visualize in that way, whatever you want. So there got a ton of different base maps. And if you have any help with any of these, quick little information button that displays the information.
Thanks, Riley. We'd love to hear your feedback. We know there's some edits to be made. We're working with Tetra Tech. They have an updated spreadsheet. So those edits, you know, for example, there's a SET station out in the ocean. Those should get fixed, as well as we're adding for those stations where we could access annual rates. We are adding those, so it'll show temporal trends. It'll show as a figure at the bottom. So we're working on that. We'll let you know when it's updated and complete. However, like Chess noticed, some of his stations aren't showing. If you could just send us an email and we'll check to see what's going on. If our latest updates to Tetra Tech may have resolved those gaps, but definitely let us know, because we need this as accurate as possible, and then we rely on you to give us that information.
And I just posted the link to it in the chat if anyone wants to go take a look.
Lynn, you had asked the process for adding, you would email us and then we will go back to Tetra Tech. And as Deborah was asking at the start of our sessions this morning, you know, if you think it's absolutely vital that we continue to update this platform, we really need to hear from you so that we can support that. It does cost money, but as you can see, it's a really useful and versatile platform. It's just more to discuss, you know, annual updates are okay with you. And of course, if you're willing to share with us your elevational trends numerically, not just qualitatively with positive, negative, that's always helpful. But do let us know if your sites aren't there, your stations aren't there, and we'll work with Tetra Tech to resolve that. So thoughts on the platform, ways to improve, what to add? Let
It
us know.
looks like we have one more question in the chat from Tanya about API links. And then looks like we've got Jenny Davis in queue for a question. So
Yeah.
Tanya's question was, are API links available on the site?
Tanya, can you elaborate on what it is? I don't know what an API is.
Yeah.
And then Jenny had a question too.
Yeah, hey, I think this looks great. It's so nice to see all these, you know, in one map. And I'm not sure if I'm missing this. I'm kind of clicking around on it on my own here. I don't see links like to a point of contact for these individual sites, and I feel like I don't know. I mean, that's, you know, one of the ways that when people see this, they want to know more about that particular area. They want to know who to reach out to for kind of the in-depth details. I wonder if that's something that I'm just missing or if it's possible to add that.
Riley, I think what we've communicated with Tetra Tech, they have, for those where we are able to have a point of contact, that is included. Others, because we gleaned the information from the literature, and it may have been perhaps a review paper, we would put that source. Riley, is that correct?
Yeah, because I believe it is in there for the ones we had it for. I'll double check because I thought it was, but if not, yeah, no, I completely agree. It should be in there.
Yeah.
If it helps, an API is how you pull the data from this website into another link. So if somebody has another database they wanted to display this data, they could pull that metadata into their own data.
Oh, so that sounds like something we would ask Tetra Tech to make available.
They'll have it in there, yeah, but yeah, we could definitely ask to see if we can get it added.
Thanks for the explanation. Yeah. Okay. Jenny, did you have a question?
No, sorry, I just forgot to put my hand down.
All right, no worries.
Any other questions?
Jeremy, I received your email offline, and yes, if any of you notice your stations aren't showing, do send them along it's strictly through accessibility, and we were likely unable to access the information. So yes, please contribute. We need you to contribute.
Well, if we have no other questions about this time, I believe next up we're going to break, if I'm correct, right?
Yep. We'll
Okay.
go ahead and reconvene at 10:45.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.